Now, BJP spokesperson Amit Malviya has tweeted taking pot shots at Mamata. He said, and I quote, Mamata Banerjee stopped picking Partha and Anubroto's calls just when they needed her the most. She deserted them when it got inconvenient, and the message for other ministers, TMC workers and bureaucrats who have colluded with her to loot, murder and assault is you too will be abandoned. I'm crossing back over to our senior editor from Kolkata to give us more context on this. Shogoto, we now have a response from the BJP about this, specifically targeting Mamata Banerjee. Tell us more about this, please.
Well, you see, the BJP leadership have always, targeted Mamata Banerjee simply because of the fact that both Partha Chatterjee and Anubroto Mondal, these two leaders who have now been arrested on charges of corruption. The former leader by the Enforcement Directorate, the latter by the CBI, and both these leaders have been very close to Mamata Banerjee. And the question that the BJP have raised, both the BJP as well as the other opposition parties, is that how could Mamata Banerjee not be aware of the fact that these two people were steeped in corruption, and that too for so many years? Well, that's the answer to that. It will have to be furnished by the Trinamool Congress leadership. But the uphill battle that Mamata Banerjee is having to fight at this point in time is certainly the battle of perception. And that battle of perception...
All right, Shogoto, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt you. We now have Amit Malviya joining us on the broadcast. Mr. Malviya, thank you so much for joining us. What I wanted to ask you now is about your tweet. Can you explain what you're saying when you're saying that Mamata too will abandon any other TMC minister who comes under fire?
Well, the truth is that Mamata Banerjee has been operating the syndicate of crime and extortion using her various leaders, ministers, workers, and of course, some bureaucrats as well. Clearly, when the heat gets too much, we have seen that how she's abandoned both Partha Chatterjee and Anubroto Mondal. So it is quite likely that as the law catches up with the rest, she will do the same with all others. This should serve as a message to those who have colluded with her to rape, loot and murder, which has been the norm in Bengal under TMC for the longest time.
Mr. Malviya, essentially, but what do you think the TMC should do when it comes to cases like this? Because we did see them distance themselves from the entire thing when Partha Chatterjee, that entire matter was going down. Now we're seeing it with Anubroto, but we are seeing a softened stance, as that's something that our senior editor had also pointed out. Do you think that they should distance themselves? Do you think that they should stick with their ministers? What is your opinion?
TMC has really no options at this point in time. The law is catching up with them, and eventually it will all land up at Mamata Banerjee's doorstep. So this entire effort to distance themselves from Anubroto Mondal or Partha Chatterjee is not going to work. These were not men acting on their own. They were acting in close concert with Mamata Banerjee, under Mamata Banerjee's guidance and protection. Mamata Banerjee would drive Anubroto Mondal in her car to give the message that he was her man and should not be touched. Partha Chatterjee was her closest aide for the longest number of years. So the mountains of cash recovered from his close aide's home is that of the TMC, and Mamata Banerjee, the direct beneficiary. In the Sarda scam also, Kunal Ghosh, now the General Secretary of the party, has openly said that Mamata Banerjee is the biggest beneficiary of the Sarda scam. So whether this Sarda or the SSC scam or the arrest of Anubroto Mondal, the fire is eventually going to land at the doorsteps of Mamata Banerjee, and she cannot escape it.
All right, Mr. Malviya, thank you so much for joining us and giving us your perspective on this entire case. I also want to thank Shogoto Mukhopadhyay for giving us that perspective. Now with this, we're heading into a very short break, but stay with us.